Francesca Jenkins, and tonight I'm going to share a subject with you that is very dear and near to my heart. Um, I will be discussing with you tonight um, Puerto Rico and how it is still suffering from the effects of Hurricane Maria. The island was hit by a Category 4 hurricane unexpectedly. The island was not prepared for what was coming its way. The island was ravaged, homes were lost, schools were torn down, there was no electricity, there was no food, there wasn't any clean running water. Because of this situation, it left many residents having to figure out and fend for themselves with what resources they had. Puerto Ricans found themselves using water from rivers to bathe and wash clothes. Areas such as Yubacoa did not have electricity. Were closer to San Juan, they did have electricity and received power, but it was limited and at times extremely spotty. 25% of the island's infrastructure is complete. 25% isn't a big number when you have an island as big and prosperous as Puerto Rico. It has been reported that the Puerto Rican Highway Patrol, along with the Transportation Department, expect to spend about $660 million just to rebuild bridges, to putting retaining walls back up. The island has a program where $1.68 billion to help out communities that homes were damaged and put people back into them. This little bit of hope is moving slow because 134,000 homeowners applied for this program, but only 2,000 of those homes and those people have been inspected. This has to do with the amount of employees that the regional construction department dropped, where it went from 100,000 of them to just 40,000. What the island needs at this time is funding, which the government approved, especially by our Congress, $20 billion. And that was only out of the $94 billion the island asked for, that they knew that they needed to be able to put things back together and bring the island back to life. Something that really sticks out to me, though, and kind of has me worried, is the fact that the standing president did very little to help the community, knowing that these people lost everything, had nothing left. And his number one concern was the debt that the island had built over the last year to 10 years and had not repaid. His exact words to the people were, you've thrown our budget a little out of whack. This is something that was said to people who lost family members, to people who had family members in hospitals, to people who had no food, to pregnant women who were close to going into labor and didn't know where they were going to give birth to their babies or what kind of condition they were going to do these in. He also took a little bit of time to get to the island, but made sure that all of the mainland areas that were hit by hurricanes just days earlier were tended to, and made sure that they had everything that they needed at that time. Rather than thinking about the lives of innocent people and removing the Jones Act immediately, the president's excuse was that many transporters of goods were not in agreement with removing the Jones Act to help out this tiny island of people. FEMA was slow in responding to the residents in the island. Many of them, my family members, included, waited on food, waited on some sort of help from the government and never received it. So I, along with my mother and other family members, put together packages of canned goods, toothpaste, soap to bathe, to wash their hair, in boxes, and mailed them along in hopes that our family would receive them. Puerto Rico was damaged and is still damaged to this very day, still receiving little to no help at all, still dealing with a shortage of resources, still being told that because of their debt crisis, what they're going through doesn't really matter. But this not only affects the adults of the community, but it has also affected the children of the community. And what I mean by this is that out of the 1,100 schools in Puerto Rico, only 340 remain open, which isn't a large number. Many of the issues that these schools are having is low staffing, no electricity, which is causing them to have shorter school days, which is also causing the students to have little to no interest on what they're being taught. And because of that, teachers have no control over their schools anymore. A lot of this has happened because many of people who could afford to leave the island left so that they could take care of their children and make sure that they were receiving the education that they were already receiving in Puerto Rico. This situation on the island is one that can no longer be ignored. We have to ask ourselves, what can we do to help? Unfortunately, the island cannot depend on the support of the United States government. It wasn't up until a few weeks ago that a lot of people knew that Puerto Rico was part of the United States. Well, I'd like to make it known today. I am Puerto Rican, and I am a United States citizen. And so is everyone still waiting to be helped. So I ask you to think about one thing. And that one thing is, why is such a beautiful island like Puerto Rico that is full of life and full of culture being ignored in the way that it is? It also makes you wonder, if you were a territory of the United States under this particular administration, how much faith would you have in them to help you in a situation such as this one? I challenge you to think about what you can do to help those in crisis, to help those in need. Thank you for listening to my speech. I hope that you've enjoyed it, and have a good night.